Join David and Ross as they become discombobulated in Dorset. From pixies to poltergeists, witches to woodrows, hear them explore the legends, folklore, and outright weirdness of their own county. This is Dark Dorzet, a podcast of weird horses.
I'm Ross in Dorchester. So you can't do it without laughing, can you?
I can't. I'm David in Wareham.
And welcome to Dark Dorzet. David, have you got any booze there? Have you got any local booze?
I do have a booze. It's not very local. It's from the Badger Brewery up the road in Blandford. Mm-hmm. And it's the Blandford Fly.
Ooh.
I'm holding it together. It's got a fly fisherman on it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very gingery.
Mm-hmm.
And it's meant to, I think the ginger in it is meant to stop the Blandford fly biting you. And the Blandford fly is a nice little bugger. I think it's like a horse fly. It's very itchy.
My mum
sore if it bites you.
I think I've talked about this on a podcast, might not be in this podcast. My mum always just get bitten by the Blandford fly, and then one of her legs would like hugely inflate, and she'd get all like
like a bouncy castle.
Yeah, like blisters all over it and stuff. And then the blisters would pop, and then her leg would go down. But by that time, she got tanned, and then one of her legs would go black because it got all tanned while the skin had been stretched, and when it went back down again, she had one leg different colour to the other. So
you put me off this beer completely now.
So actually, that's made of the oozings from my mum's blisters.
Blister leg pus.
Yeah. So I was drinking. I think this is my favourite beer. It is the Jurassic Brewery Chesil Pilsner. That is my officially my favourite beer.
Yes.
But I finished that, so I am now moving on to this. This is called Crop Circle.
Ooh.
Which I thought was apt for this. And
I like it.
But this I bought this from. There's a corner shop near where my in-laws have moved to, which says it's all local beers, but this isn't. So I assume these are all Dorset beers, but when I got it back, it's from Wiltshire, all the way over in Salisbury. But this is very So, but it's
what brewery is it from?
Something like.
Is it the Hopback Brewery?
Yeah, Hopback or Hopbrick?
Yeah,
Hopback Brewery.
Hopback. They make Summer Lightning, I think.
Yeah,
that's a really nice beer.
It's got a great picture.
That would probably be number 2 in your favourite beers.
Well, I haven't tried it yet. Let's give it a go. It's got a great picture. It looks like you. It's like their logo. You see?
It does.
Yeah.
It looks like me from Roman times.
Yeah.
We need to find a crop circle.
Mm. Or make one.
Or make a crop. Yeah.
It's nice. How about a cock and ball crop circle?
Space rocket, you mean?
Yes.
Yes. They wouldn't be a circle then, would it?
Well, the two balls would be a circle, and then the
they would be 2 circles.
Yeah. That's very nice. I'm enjoying that. It looks very when it's all like really soapy suds. What's the official way of saying that?
Head.
All right.
Don't give me the eyes like that.
But like soapy head, yeah?
Yeah, soapy head. It's because you have too much pressure when you drink it and you make that popping noise.
Oh, okay.
And then it all froths up.
So,
Yeah.
So if I
yes.
Yeah, okay, right. Right, before this goes too far into an innuendo, what are we talking about this time, David?
This time, Ross in Dorchester, we're going to talk about our ghost hunting sleepover at Dorchester Prison.
Sound effects. So we actually went somewhere at night and went to an actual official. It was an actual official, most haunted official ghost hunting experience in Dorchester Prison, which is very kindly purchased for my birthday by my wife and my wife Beck, and she came along with David and his partner Kaz. So Oh, what's a funny noise? Can you hear that?
No.
Okay,
that doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
No, exactly. Essentially, what we just...
it was an evening full of that, wasn't it?
Yeah. So, we didn't know what to expect. Becca said to me that we were going to go to the prison, which is an abandoned prison near us. We've probably got some history about that we can talk about in a minute. But all we knew was that we were going to go there, potentially do some kind of seance, and stay the night. And we thought it was going to be like a haunt or like a spooky maze type, where people be jumping out and people tell us ghost stories and stuff. But as we got there
were some very serious ghost hunters.
Yes.
There were some very nerdy ghost hunters.
Mm-hmm.
And there were some very keen,
enthusiastic, yes,
almost desperate ghost hunters. They were so desperate to have some kind of experience that I think they willed a lot of it and persuaded themselves they were, potentially hearing things that were meaningful.
So as we got there, we went up into the, I think it must have been where the visits would have happened, when it was an actual prison or was a canteen or something like that. And
that was a bit more up to date, that block, wasn't it?
Yeah,
a bit more modern.
And we were shown the array of official Most Haunted merchandise if we wanted to buy a Most Haunted Ouija board or a Vet Fielding novel about ghosts. And then all the people started turning up. People were like bringing like briefcases and bags and lots of equipment, and they were getting out and checking all the batteries and all of their like thermometer guns, and loads of people getting out loads of soft toys, which was we found out later on what that was all about. I can definitely hear something, David. It's like
I heard some knocking then.
Yeah, like a boom 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 noise. Right. Oh, that's lovely. Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Come on, spirit.
So we were asked if anyone was new, and then there was only a few people who hadn't done it before. So I was surprised that this seems to be like a regular thing that a lot of people do.
Yes, some people had been there several times before, and I think a lot of the people had been on other ghost hunts with this company and others at other prisons and other big houses. But yeah, I thought it was organised really quite well. I thought everyone was very friendly and welcoming. This part of the evening, though, was I think was our first red flag, wasn't it? When they asked if we'd done it before, and then they asked if we were believers.
Yeah.
To which you said that you were sceptical.
Yeah, I said it depends what you asked me to believe. Yeah.
I think they then stared at us both and were quite serious when they said, "We have to have an open mind. Please keep an open mind. You have to have an open mind." And they did hammer this point home a bit, because they said, quote, "If you don't have an open mind, nothing will happen."
Yeah.
Which made me think they were just going to lie to us all evening.
but I think when we go into what actually did happen, I think that is very much true. This is one of these situations. If you went into there completely convinced there was nothing supernatural going to happen, there was no way you was going to be convinced.
But I think you were more open-minded than I was, because I spent a lot of the time we were stood up in the dark waiting for noises or knocks or things to move, and I spent a lot of my time looking round, watching other people to see where they were, or to see if they were going to touch me and run away.
Yeah.
And there was one point late on where there was some knocking. Someone in the group was knocking, saying, "Spirit, can you copy this knock?" And it did knock back, and everyone heard it. But at that point, two of the group were not in the room.
Really? I didn't notice they weren't there. Oh, okay.
Yeah. So one guy had gone back to the kitchen area to get something that he left behind.
Right.
And when he came back in the room, there was another chap with him. So two people were not in the room when we heard that knocking. That was in the chapel. Mm-hmm. And then when they were back in the room, the lady did the same thing to get the spirit to knock back again, and it never did.
it sounded like, okay, so we're jumping around a little bit. So there was lots of different areas we went to. We were split into 2 groups. And initially we all went down to, it looked like there was some like admin room areas, wasn't there? And he goes, right, we're going to go dark, which was everyone's going to turn off all their lights. And they had a variety of different things. So you could have like a electromagnet, what's it called?
Field.
Electromagnetic
field
sensor.
Detector. Sensor.
So a bit like what they...
And that was meant to go through different coloured lights, wasn't it? And it didn't, unless you had your phone next to it trying to text someone.
Exactly. You could have a thermometer gun sort of thing. You would get shot on the head if he was going to go to a cinema or something back when we was in good old COVID days. And there was a lot of people brought soft toys which had like some kind of sensor in them so that if you touched it or moved in front of it, it would light up or flash. And one guy had built his own like police car with a because he said he thought the police car would antagonise the incarcerated spirits, but if you went near that, the siren would go off and the lights would come on. And they also had these little cat balls, which if you moved them, they would light up. So they put a lot of these things out to try and then the whole idea then at that point was you would call upon the spirits to try and get them to move one of these things to make them light up or make a noise, and it was just very, very quiet. And then every so often it'd be like, what was that?
Did anyone else hear that? Yeah. And I think that's when the second red flag took hold. Really, was that in that first room before we went dark, we were told that we might hear noises, and if all of us heard the noises, that was the spirits trying to get in touch.
Yeah.
But if only one of us heard the noises, that was also the spirits trying to get in touch. So it was equally valid if no one heard them at all.
Yeah.
So
and if anyone,
and there was a lot of that, wasn't there? There was a lot of, oh, did you hear that? I was like, no, didn't hear that.
And also a lot of and they also said if you think of a word or something like that, just say it out because that's probably the ghost talking to you. But it was still fun. I gotta say there was one point I was scared the whole time, which we'll come on to in a minute. But the rest of the time, and I was reflecting on this, if I went there in my teens, I would have been bricking myself because it's an enormous Victorian.
It's an enormous old Victorian. It's in a state of pretty poor repair. It is as spooky as hell in the middle of the night. If you were there on your own, and if you're wandering around on your own, you'd be absolutely shit scared. And there would be noises creaking. There were doors open, weren't there? There were broken windows. It was raining. There was breeze coming through.
But I felt like the whole thing. I just found it fascinating, just being around. And I felt like I've been to like churches where everyone's like having like the Holy Spirit talking to them and they talking in tongues and all that kind of stuff. And I find that kind of thing more frightening than a group of people just convincing themselves they can hear like something knocking in the corner, because it feels like that is not trying to that's not like trying to change anyone's behaviour or anything. That's just I felt like this was just like fun, and all these people were just coming together because they wanted to. You know, there was one lady there it was her first time, and she was, when we had to go around and all introduce ourselves.
She was fantastic.
Yeah, and I was like, I'm David, I'm Ross, and she was like, I can't remember what her name was. Like, I'm Shirley, and I'm so happy to be here. I'm so excited. Wasn't this amazing? Oh, please, can something happen tonight, please?
She was excellent fun, yeah.
They said, would you like to try some table tipping? So they had some small wooden tables, and Beck, so she would do it, and she was there with a couple of other people, and they all sort of had to like lightly touch it with their hands, and then of course the table started like wobbling around and sort of moving around and stuff, and and it felt to me that there was one person who was obviously moving it around.
Yes, and I think it's quite, so the table was quite low and quite fragile, and you're only meant to touch it with the tips of your fingers, of all your fingers. So, of course, you're stood there, one person on each side, your knees are slightly bent, you're off balance, you're in the dark, which is quite disorientating as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, some of your weight does go through your fingertips at that point.
Mm-hmm.
No matter how lightly you want to touch this table, stood there for 10, 15 minutes with bent knees, it's going to start wobbling.
Yeah. And then
I know what you mean.
Yeah. Then we had the glass on the table, and that started moving around. But it felt to me like there was like 3 or 4 people, and it was almost like it happened so quickly, and everyone was just quite so like, it's happening. It's like, if this is real, you'd be like really freaking out,
Yeah. And the best, so there, and we're all laughing and saying, "Spirit, move the glass, make it draw a circle on the table, etc." And I think one of the best bits was when one of the hosts asked you, Ross, as a skeptic, to think of a corner of the table.
Yeah.
And then they asked the spirit to move the glass to that corner of the table, and gradually the glass, with 4 fingers on it from 4 different people, moved over to the top left-hand corner of the table and stayed there. And you said, "Sorry, wrong corner." And then one lady said, "Well, that's the corner I was thinking of. Maybe my energy is stronger than your energy with the spirit." So told them to do it again, and you got the wrong corner the second time, and the third time they got the wrong corner, and eventually it went into the correct corner. But I think by then we were too busy chuckling.
And honestly, I wasn't changing the corner, and I think it did go to it missed the corner. Yeah, each time, it had a 1 in 4 chance, no. 1 in 3 chance, no. 50-50 chance, no. But then we had a break, and then one of the best things about the thing, it was unlimited wagon wheels and Kit Kats and crisps and coffee and hot chocolate.
Before the break, Ross, we actually went down into the basement, didn't we?
Oh. Okay.
And we were told, so we went into the basement, and we were told that this is where the children's cells were. And I don't know if that's correct, but it gave it an extra kind of spooky and kind of sinister feel. And we put the cat balls and the toys and the police car out again. And some of the lights did go off without anyone walking past them, which was a bit odd. But I'm not sure on how good the circuitry was in some of those things, or
if there's any remote controls in anyone's pockets.
We did the Ouija board down there.
Yes, I was so excited.
You put your finger on top of the glass along with, I think, your wife and 2 others, and I kept such a close eye on it.
Yeah.
And I think this is the only thing that had me thinking I can't explain it.
Yeah. So I've always wanted to do a Ouija board. And it's never come up that I could do it. So there was when they said who wants to do it, I was like, right there, yes please, I really want to do it. They were sort of really bigging up the Ouija board, like saying like, if people don't want to do it, let us know, and we will make sure you're far away from it, and all this kind of stuff. And afterwards, talking to people about what we did, the amount of people who got freaked out, even at the idea that we were in the same room as a Ouija board. Like, oh, you shouldn't have done that. Completely, people don't believe any of this stuff. And it's so funny how this thing has got such a reputation. And even afterwards, there was a point from, should I have done that? I don't know. And I was like, oh, no, I don't believe in it. So, so Beck was doing it, and she was just touching it with the tips of her fingernails. There was a lady to my left, and she was touching it so lightly that when it was moving, her fingers kept coming off of it because she wasn't touching it. And there was a young boy, probably in his sort of early 20s, late teens, and I was thinking, well, I don't think I'm moving it, so I think it's the only person that I could be moving it is him. But then I don't know if he was.
But he wasn't.
Yeah.
No, he had a light touch and kept coming off as well.
Yeah.
And it was so the previous exercise where we were trying to find the corner of the table, you could see someone driving that, where on this board spelling out words, the words were so clear each time. There was there were no jumbled words or nonsense words. It's very hard to see how one person could drive that
without competing with other people as well.
Yeah. But it went from letter to letter so quickly and smoothly. There was no competition there.
No. So initially they got us to sort of spin around and do call out for the spirits and stuff. And then it wasn't doing it for ages, and I was like quite disappointed. I think, oh fuck, it's not going to work because none of us are faking it. And then it moved and it to goodbye onto the board.
Yeah.
And I was like, ooh, it moved, and it's quite had a little bit of a frisson of excitement. But then we wanted to sort of cajole it not to go away. We asked it how old it was, and it said 82, which kind of like ruined the sort of the narrative of this is where all the children are. Then it did another number, and I was thinking, it's just gibberish at this point. And then I honestly can't remember the order of the things it was saying, but
yes, we asked the spirit its name, didn't we?
Mm-hmm.
And it spelled out Near. Near.
Yeah.
I thought it was going to go for Neil, but it went Near.
Yeah.
And so I was like, so you're quite near to us, are you?
Yeah. And we said, move to the edge of the board where you are, and it moved over near where you were, David, didn't it? It went over to the corner where you were. And then what did it say next?
It said get out next.
Oh,
I can't remember what we asked it. I think we just spelled it.
Let out. Letout. And it was one of those things where it was like, the nearer it was getting to real words, I'm like, and it was like, it was really fun and exciting that it was being articulate. And then it said stay, didn't it?
Yeah.
One of the things which was very strange is that it was I think it was predominantly ladies there, and they all seemed to be so super. Patronize is not the right word, but super, like, whenever there was any idea there might be a spirit around, they were like, "Oh, thank you so much. Oh, you're so lovely." And there was and it was almost like overwhelming the amount of like. There was points where it's like, you want us to listen for noises, but you're not shutting up because you're constantly talking or cajoling the spirit in a very, very kind of very supportive way. And some people were talking like this while we was doing this, and I was like, freaking just shut up, because it's kind of spoiling the vibes of it. I want it to be spookier rather than you're trying to make it all very supportive and stuff. But when it did the stay bit, it moved really, really fast, and there was a point where for the last letter it moved so fast it came out from under all of our fingers apart from Beck, and Beck had her hands. She decided that she was going to put her fingers upside down, so it was just the backs of her fingernails. Because she didn't want to. She was worried that she was inadvertently moving it, and it moved to the last letter Y, without with only the backs of her fingertips, which was cool. And there's a point at that point I was thinking it was going to, because it was saying how were you killed. And I got told off for saying that because apparently you're not allowed to mention that they're dead because they might not know they're dead. And I thought it's going to spell stab, S-D-A-B.
Yes.
And it spells stay. So part of me was thinking, because we've looked into this afterwards, how do Ouija boards work? What was the name of the phenomenon? I've got it written here.
Apophenia.
Yeah, or eidemotor, or something like that. So apparently there is there's a theory that things like this, or if you're moving pendulums, or if you're doing dowsing, where you can make micro movements without realizing you're.
Yes, they're not conscious movements.
No,
you're not trying to control it, but you're subconsciously are doing something. You are affecting it in very small, unnoticeable ways.
Yeah. And there's some of these things, particularly things like pendulums, is that the tiniest moves, movements you can't see, will be accentuated by some of these famous things like dowsing rods and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But part of me was thinking, like, if I was consciously, and I was the only one I could tell was touching it, because I could feel it with my own hands, and the other people's fingers were like sliding around on it. Surely, if I was consciously thinking it's going to say stab, and it spelt something else out, so was my subconscious like like doing that against me, and also the fact that I was like, it was a very, very strange, exciting phenomenon. I'd love to do it again.
It was the highlight of the evening. I do wonder why we tried a Ouija board in a wing that was for children in Victorian times, because none of them would have been able to spell.
It's fair enough. Yeah.
Would they? None of them would have been able to read and write.
No.
So the actual thought of doing it there, and I know you said the age was 85, 82, but it hung... At first, we thought it was 8 because it only moved to the next number, after a big pause. So, yeah. It's difficult to explain this one.
No, but whatever. I would say it was. Yeah, I said the highlight of the evening for me. It was really fun. I'm glad I did it, and I'm so pleased that something happened, even if I'm not convinced it was supernatural. I'm just really pleased that something happened. And later on in the evening, that the other boy came up to me and he was like, "Were you moving it?" And I was like, "No." And he's like, "I wasn't moving it." And he goes, he said he could see that when the glass movement was happening before. He said, "I could see that woman was moving it." And he goes, "I was waiting to check that she wasn't going to go on it, because I really wanted to see if it would move." On its own. Yeah,
the 4 people on that Ouija board, I think, were the most. They had the most integrity of a lot of the people that I saw doing other activities that night.
Would you want to have a go?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if we ever get into that situation again, you could have a go, David. I think I'm going to get myself a Ouija board. I got a shit one, which is just like, spent a lot of money on it on Amazon, and it was just a bit of plywood with some paper glued on it, and I was like, oh, well, that is shit. Yeah. But the typography is always really bad on them. I want a really nicely done one.
You should make one.
Yeah, but maybe I could. Yeah. So. We also went to after break. We went to like the kitchens, which they told us is were the site of the hangings. But David's done some research since.
They did. So on the way to the kitchens, we went through the big atrium, which is 4 floors. This big cylindrical space, and that was spooky as hell. You could see up to all the kind of corridors and balconies and into the cells and stuff, and with these shining torches, and there's lots of lights moving around. And
I would say that was a point where I thought I saw something moving, but it was by that time it was about 1 o'clock in the morning, wasn't it? And it was very dark. And again, wasn't scared, didn't think it was a ghost, but I was convinced there was someone up on 4 floors up. Because they was talking. I said, "Can you turn on the torch up there? Because I can see someone up on that balcony." I was sort of put the torch on it. They weren't there anymore, so I think it was just a trick of my eyes. But and
we went to the kitchens, which I think was on floor 2 or so, and they told us that this is where they used to hang the condemned prisoners. But from what I've read, they used to hang people outside the prison, and especially at the back of the prison, there's some gates, aren't there? That people used to crowd around there. That I think there's even like Hangman's Cottage is named Hangman's Cottage there because that is where the hanging. They're very public things.
Yeah.
So I don't really believe that they hung people where the kitchens were. But there was a lot of freaking out in the kitchens, and it got quite exciting because all of a sudden a lady who'd done this kind of thing lots of times before shouted to put the lights on quickly because someone was standing next to her. Something was standing next to her. And then kind of a chase ensued because there were lots of little rooms off this, and they were all connected, and a guy went around with a torch, and people kept thinking they saw the shadow and they saw the man.
And that's what that's the point I felt scared, because I thought there was a homeless person or someone in the building. Yeah.
It was a bit like, is it a real person or is it a spirit? And it was But I think at that point, the excitement started rubbing off on other people.
Yeah.
Because it was 1 o'clock and it was dark and it is scary as hell. And if someone says, I just had someone standing next to me, I could hear them breathing, then yeah, you start standing a bit closer together, don't you?
A bit of mass what's it called? Hysteria. Yeah. And then we did something called the human pendulum, didn't we?
We did, and I think, bearing in mind the hysteria, the excitement we just had. So some of us stood in a circle and we waited for the spirits to choose someone by tipping them forward. And if you're stood in a circle in the dark with your eyes closed, I think you can easily off-balance yourself and stumble forward. And a young lady stumbled forward, and I think she'd again done ghost hunting before, and she was ever so keen to have some kind of experience. I think I'm sure her attitude helped her, or she was easier to convince herself that things were happening because of the attitude she had. I think she really desperately wanted to be central to some kind of experience. So she stumbled forward and became the pendulum. With Ross was standing behind her, so if she kind of started to lean backwards, you could catch her, and that was if that was for the answer no. And then a gentleman was in front of her, so if she started to lean forwards to answer yes, that gentleman would catch her. And the most haunted hosts were asking the spirit some questions, and she would lean back or forward to answer yes or no. And the questions started off quite basically, are there spirits there? And the spirit got in touch, and we asked it, are you male? Lean back for no. Are you female? And she fell forward for yes. And then the spirit was asked its name. Does it begin with A? Yes, thankfully it did. And then someone guessed Alice almost straight away, and that was a yes. So that again, that was quite easy. And then they asked the spirit how long they had been in the prison.
Mm-hmm.
And so they started with the 1700s, and the answer was yes. 1710, no. 1720s, no. 30s, no. 1740s, yes. I think it turned out to be 1743, didn't it? When
something like that.
Poor old Alice was in prison. However, coming home and Googling it, Dorchester Prison wasn't even finished until 1795.
Right, yeah.
So I think Ghostbusters Inc. need to do their homework a bit more if they're going to convince me of this one.
Yeah, and I think she says she had been executed, and I've got a list of all the people who've been executed there, and there's no others on the list. But she obviously was really feeling it and was convinced that something was going on, because after she got quite upset.
She got quite upset, and when she was leaning forwards and back, sometimes she really leant in, didn't she, to emphasise the positive or negative answer. Yeah,
and it was quite a sad story she came up with to do with sort of incest and all that kind of stuff. So it was
and self-defence.
Yeah, so it was it was a very sort of strong experience for the lady, and it was an interesting thing to do. But it was also quite hard to understand what was happening, because people were getting very excited about teddy bears being lit up
in another room. Yes, so there was another room off this, and something was lighting up. We could hear it. We could see the disco lights. There was lots of noise. And at one point, the host asked the pendulum if there were any other spirits in the vicinity, and she said no.
Yeah. It's all about me.
Clearly you can't hear what's going on next door.
Yeah. So we also went up into the old chapel, and someone had brought a robot with them, which put in the middle of the room, and which, if you waved your hand in front of it, it would move towards your hand. So it was all the lights were off, and you could just see the eyes of the robot, and every so often the robot would start like jerking around and moving around, and everyone's getting very excited. And then it fell over. It went, uh-oh. And then we put it back up and said, can you push it over again? And it got pushed over again. So that was quite exciting.
I think the chapel was the spookiest bit for me.
Oh, really?
Because we were all sat in a large circle. And where I was right near an open door, and I could see down the corridor, and I could see some light down the corridor, and there was quite a cold breeze coming in through there. And when the lady knocked on the floor and said, if there's anyone there, can you knock? Can you repeat this? And she knocked 3 or 4 times. The knocking came from down that corridor, and everyone heard it. It wasn't just everyone heard it, and it did it twice. And then those 2 fellas came in the room, and it never repeated it again. Yeah,
but they didn't come from
that
that
was
direction.
the only time I actually heard something.
Yeah,
and it
was from the sex offenders wing, apparently.
Yeah, and it was proper knocking. It wasn't just like you could hear the other group outside, or you could hear someone's tummy rumbling.
Yeah,
or someone just moving and their shoe squeaking. It was
quite exciting.
It sounded quite real.
And then we was told that we had to be respectful to all the ghosts, but we was allowed to be as offensive as we possibly could to the sex offenders. And there was this one lady
and they'd respond the angrier we got.
Yeah. So we're like, someone's going, I'm going, touch me! And someone was going, come on, you dirty fuckers. You want to, come and touch me, you dirty fucker. Come on, you know you want it. It's like, oh, it's so funny. Yeah. And there's this one guy who didn't say anything all night, and he's like going, come on. And I was like, oh God. But it was a fun kind of like end to the ghost hunting experience of everyone just shouting obscenities to like empty cells.
That was the most unbelievable part of the whole evening.
Yes. At which point, David and Kaz went home and left me and Beck all to ourselves. So we was told that we you can, if you wanted to sleep, you can pick any cell on the 4th floor. And this place is fucking enormous. It's like one of like several hundred cells. You can just go and pick one. And it was like, me and Beck were like, well, this one? I don't know about this one. And we took a blow-up bed with us. But it just took age. We only got it half pumped up. Because because it was so noisy. Like, we was convinced that because other people were ghost hunting, we said, someone's going to be on the ground floor going, what's that noise? Can you hear that rhythmic knocking coming from upstairs? We got it half pumped up. And also the cell was so small that you couldn't pump it up the full way anyway, because the double bed was touching the sides. And so it must have been absolutely horrible to stay in there. And there's no power in the whole building. All we had was our head torch. And again, I said to Beck, the idea a few years ago of just sleeping in a prison cell with no light and would have freaked me out, but I was absolutely fine with it. So we just wandered around, and I walked past one cell and I heard this like noise coming from inside the cell, and I was like, "What?" You know, when all the hair goes up on the back of your neck. But it was someone doing like some kind of ghost hunting in the cell. So that's go over that. But we got a little bit lost because it's quite hard to remember what floor you're on when it's pitch black and which wing you're on and stuff. But we were just wandering around. That was quite cool, just having the whole place to ourselves. But every so often you'd go into a room and there'd be someone in the middle of the room on their own, sort of calling out to spirits and stuff. But then in the middle of the night, we went to sleep. And then about an hour in, someone just walked into our room with one of those bloody flashing cat balls. And I was like, "Ah!" And he's like, oh, sorry, mate. So that was a little bit disconcerting. But apart from that...
They were told not to go up there.
Yeah, just slept through. But very good.
Did you talk to anyone in the morning, and did anyone have any other experiences after kind of we went home?
Not really, just had a chat to see if anyone slept. Some people just stayed up all night. Everyone seemed to have a lovely time, but no, the only people I really sort of spoke to was the other chap who did the Ouija board with. But the time went very quick. You know, we got there about 9ish, didn't we? And I think me and Beck went to bed about 3 or 4 in the morning in the end, and got up at 8. So we had about 4 hours sleep.
Out.
Yeah. But yeah, it was very good. And I'm really glad I got to spend all that time in that building before it gets knocked down, because it's a lovely historic, well, not lovely, it's a historic building, and it is, isn't it? A big part of that, and it's massive. And you wouldn't realise it's right in the centre of town. You wouldn't realise what's behind those walls.
It just feels like punishment, doesn't it? The whole building, it's so austere and with messages written in the bricks on the steps outside.
Yeah. What did it say?
Just horrible.
The key to a brighter future is written in like tiles on the steps and stuff.
Yeah.
But apparently, as part of the because they were going to turn it into flats, but now I think they're going to knock it down and put some houses there. But part of the thing they need to do before they do that is exhume all the bodies, because apparently there's quite a lot of bodies buried there, including people who were executed on the land. So that's part of what they need to do. And I think they should have done more about what the reality of, they could have told us some of these stories, and I think that would have made it even spookier, about the fact that there are bodies buried here. And it's also the site of a medieval castle as well, isn't it? So there was a castle there before it was even a prison. So all that history, I think they could have gone into a bit more depth.
Agreed. But it was good. Yeah. I'm glad we did it.
Yes, definitely.
I'm glad we did it, and thank you for everyone who made it good fun.
Yeah.
Even though I didn't have an open mind.
No. So have you got any facts about? Have you got any facts about the prison or anything?
I don't. I did read some TripAdvisor things, not for the prison, but for the company as a whole, and they don't make good reading. And I actually thought it was a lot better than that, but yeah.
Well, looking online, apparently it's number 23 of the 100 most haunted places in the UK, according to Higgy Pop, which is a website about ghost hunting.
Is that rating just because of the ghost hunting and the experiences people have, or is that down to ghost stories before? I do know my friend James.
Yes. Hi, James.
Who I saw on his motorbike today, actually. Mm-hmm. You don't know my friend James. Sminty. You might have met him. So I'm going to get this wrong again. I'm going to get corrected. His father-in-law, I think, works at Dorchester Prison.
Oh, okay. Or works or worked? Yeah.
Works. I think he's some kind of caretaker or groundsman or manager of events that go on there.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked if he'd had any haunting experiences, and the answer was none whatsoever.
All right, okay.
So, again, another person that doesn't have an open mind, Ross.
Exactly. It feels to me like it's number 22 because they just put a list of 100 random places. But I'm looking through the list now. There's nothing nearby, unfortunately. I did manage to get a list of all the people who were executed there, from 1801 right up to 1913. So I got quite confused because some people were saying 1913 was like the last one, but then they was talking about someone who did something in the Second World War who got executed there as well in the towards the end of the Second World War. So a bit confusing. But looking at some of the things which people got executed for, so there's the murder of a child, the murder of their girlfriend, the murder of a warden. One of them was it said the murder of their bastard child, which is, but also
yes, I saw a few people that were in prison for a few years or so for bastardy.
Bastardy? Is that making a bastard?
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah, having a child out of wedlock is a prison sentence.
Wow. But on here, some of the things people are being executed for is forgery. You can get a lot of forgers got executed. You think, is that really
that's ironic, isn't it?
Yeah.
Considering the people that ran this experience for us.
Housebreaking, sheep theft, and highway robbery. So some of these, you feel like, I don't believe in the death sentence, but you would think it was only for murder that you would get it for, not for stealing a sheep.
Yes.
Or stealing sheep. It's I'm glad we live nowadays, because we get to go on ghost hunts rather than be actually locked up in there ourselves. And I can't imagine what it would be like. They run these ghost hunts at Dorchester Prison and Shepton Mallet Prison. If you want to do it soon, because apparently they're just waiting to knock the building down. So if you want to get in there, go and do it soon.
I had a message from my friend Nigel.
Hi, Nigel.
Do you remember? I remember we spoke when we were on Brandsea Island because I
yes,
met up with Nigel a few days before. I think the beer got the better of me, and I didn't get his story quite right when I was telling it to you.
Okay, yes.
And he's messaged me, so I'm going to read it out to you.
Okay.
Try and get it right this time.
Okay, do a dramatic reading of it.
This was the guy, if you remember, who had driven through a person.
Not Nigel himself. It was Nigel's friend.
No, Nigel's friend. And I got it wrong or something because he said it was just like driving through a person. I said, you don't know what driving through a person is like. But so I got it wrong. Nigel says I got it sort of right, and it takes place not far from Bodmin in Cornwall, where his friend's family have lived for generations. And this chap's father-in-law saw a full coach and horse apparition exactly on the same stretch of road many years before. It's a dip in the bottom of the hill that apparently is well known locally as being haunted. And recent folklore says that the ghost appears to people who ride or have ridden motorcycles and is seen on a certain day each year. This is the kind of thing that puts me off. Anyway, so Nigel's friend was driving his car when he saw this male figure appear. He didn't have time to stop, and according to this chap, the figure passed through the car. Nigel asked him what it was like, and he just said, like a person, just like a person. Nigel asked if there was a smell or he could see through the person, and he just said, no, it was a person passing through the car. And this guy stopped, he got out, he looked around, there's absolutely no sign. And it was in exactly the same place on the road that his father had seen the coach and horses many years ago. And every time Nigel sees him, he asks him to tell the story, and the guy tells it always the same. There's never any ominous ghoulishness to it. It's always just like a person.
If you've got any ghost stories, if you've had experienced anything, we'd love to hear them. So maybe do us a voicemail. We've got an email address, which is dark.Dorset@gmail.com. I think Henry says that at the end of the podcast. Yeah. Or if I think most of the people listening to this podcast actually know us, send us a voicemail on WhatsApp and we'll play it. Interesting. Well, when I relayed my night in the prison to my dad, he told me a couple of spooky things that have happened to him. I'll probably save the UFO ones if we ever do a UFO episode. But he did tell me that one time he was driving to Southampton, and he was driving through the New Forest, and he said it had been snowing. I said he was driving along, and he was like, he was driving uphill, and he was like, oh, I shouldn't be driving uphill at this point. And then he was looking at, and he was like, I don't recognise where I am at all. I must have taken a wrong turn. And he's like, well, I don't know when I would have done it. So he thought, I'll keep driving, because I'll see a road sign in a minute to see where I am. And he said he kept driving, and he was like saying nothing looked familiar at all. He felt like he was driving for quite a significant amount of time. And he was thinking, well, I'm going to have to turn around at some point, because I've obviously come off the road without realising it. And then he said, suddenly recognised where he was. And it was like, why? I've been driving for a long period of time, and I shouldn't, for the amount of time I've been driving, I should be further along where I am now. He said all he can attribute to that, when it snows, everything looks different in the snow. But he was saying it was just the fact that he was going uphill when he shouldn't have been going uphill, and that the fact he was driving for a lot longer than he felt he should have done. But he said it could have been just completely in his mind, but he said it was a very, very spooky feeling. And I thought, oh, that to me was probably, if that was spookier than actually seeing a ghost or something. It's just the whole idea of like, where am I? I'm lost. But I've experienced that as well. When you're driving, you think, I don't know where the hell I am, and then suddenly it will click back in again. Because I was thinking, is that part of that kind of thing we was talking about with the subconscious movements and stuff? I think sometimes you can drive like that. You could be completely thinking about something else.
Yeah, I think people stop concentrating, don't they? It's like you leave work and then you're home and you can't remember it, and that's how you get speeding tickets. Because you're not concentrating on what you're doing, and you go too fast, and driving can be a bit too automatic sometimes.
It's been suggested to me to do some mindfulness exercises in the past, but I do find it really hard to meditate or do any of that kind of stuff or any kind of guided meditation. I find it really hard to not think about the process of doing it. It's almost like I'm outside myself, watching myself doing it. But for me, the most mindful thing I can do is driving, because I feel like a part of my brain is then kind of the part of myself which would be like self-critical or what's another word? Skeptical about doing any kind of mindfulness stuff, or something which would be telling me this isn't going to work, or observing me doing it. It's taken over. It's driving, so that it's like 50%. of my
You have
brain
to be in the moment, don't you?
Yeah.
You have to concentrate, and you have to be in the moment of what you're doing.
Yeah, and then
which is exactly what it's about.
And then I can listen to music or listen to a podcast or something, and I'm completely relaxed. I find driving is the most relaxing thing I can do. So I love going on long drives. So that's why I've always thought I'd want to be a taxi driver. But you'd have to. Yeah.
I'd never be a taxi. I get really fucking miserable when it's late and I'm tired and I'm hungry. I couldn't run a pub, and I couldn't be a taxi driver. And
I do love driving around at night. Things. You get the best radio at night. They just put weird stuff on. It's just
you can also listen to the radio at home at night without the driving bit.
I know, but then your brain's awake then, isn't it? Telling you your shit. Too much information. Right, okay, next time we're going to be exploring Henry's dossier of book of
I hope so, yes, with Henri himself, I hope.
Yeah.
I believe it's his birthday coming up. We might be lucky and we could take him out.
Yeah.
Ghost exploring.
Yeah, so Henry is the man who does our intro and outro. So hopefully we will have him on the next episode. But until then, stay discombobulated and happy day.
It's not natural. Cheery buys.
If you knows of any weirdness you'd like to share with Dave and Ross, you can tell them by email at darkdorzet@gmail.com, or talk to them on Twitter at Dark Dorzet. Well, until next time, stay discombobulated. Stay discombobulated. Stay discombobulated. Stay discombobulated. Stay discombobulated.
Right. Got everything you need?
Think so.
Okay.
What do I need?
You need energy.
Do I need a temperature gun?
Yeah.
Are you wearing a black turtleneck sweater, Ross?
See, today? Everyone took the piss out of me at this. There's 4 people who said I look like Steve Jobs, and then I took it off, and then they said I looked like Simon Cowell because I had a V-neck top underneath. So I was like,
no, I think you reminded me of someone, and I can't put my finger on it. I don't think it's Ned Flanders.
It's up to the stars. I think I look sexy. Right. But,
Yeah.
As long as I think so, that's all that matters, isn't it? Where's
Yeah, you're probably naked from the waist down, aren't you?
Yeah, of course. Where is my bottle opener?
Dude, just drinking a beer.
Yeah, but I've finished that one now. I'm going to open the new one. I might have to go without. And I'm going to have to go and get a bottle opener. 2 seconds.
Okay.
Oh, I wonder. Oh, there it is. Got it. Right.
I'm glad you have a bottle opener by your desk.
Yeah. There we go. It is for podcasting purposes. Okay. I'm Ross in Dorchester. You can't do it without laughing, can you?
I can't. I'm David in Wareham.